objective of the study of the Shastras or study of Vedanta, the bottom line, the very primary objective is to dislodge your mind from the world and plant it onto the higher. To lodge it onto the higher, lodge it onto the self. Beyond this, it doesn't have any other purpose. To dislodge your mind from the lower and lodge it to the higher. And throughout their experience and their narration, they are trying their level best to give us what is the highest that you can ever aspire, what is the highest truth that is ever known to mankind. So it is being their earnest attempt to raise our level of thinking from where we are to the highest. So if you have been following, in fact, I can't think of many times happening like this, that the study of the Kaivalya Upanishad we do on Saturdays and the 8th chapter that we are doing today, there is almost a striking parallel of the context and the content. It's almost repetitive by nature. So it's a strange coincidence, and I don't know what to say, but I'll have to scratch and say, what am I to explain? Because I've spoken about it to you yesterday, and it just continues to happen. But however, the thought is, the attempt is to draw your mind as high as possible. So the concept of God, the concept of Brahman, in fact, is, if you take an honest assessment of what is your concept of God today and what is the concept of the reality, it in fact holds apart. Just a few days ago, we celebrated Janmashtami, celebrated the birthday of Lord Krishna. And here we are listening to the Lord himself. And yet there is such a powerful movement that personifies the form of the Lord as the object of worship. And here the Lord himself, when he tries to pitch in the concept of God, the ultimate attempt they are trying to convey is that the God is the formless reality. You got to go beyond the form and attune to the formless, the all-pervasive reality. Now, in the 20th verse, he said, there exists higher than the unmanifested, yet another unmanifest being, which is eternal, which doesn't get destroyed when all the beings are destroyed. If you recall what we said last week, there is the manifested world, then there is the unmanifest one, and then the unmanifest two, because he says there is yet another unmanifest being. So there exists higher than the unmanifested. The manifestation is the world. The unmanifest is the source of the manifested. The source of the manifested is, what is the source of the manifested? Aparavagaru, I'm continuing my conversation with you from last week. I don't know if you remember the conversation, but I remember. You were not in a very cooperative mood last week. I hope you will cooperate today with me. See, he doesn't even want to talk to me. So, you don't have anything to say further, sir.
Namaskaram, Guruji. Sorry, it has taken time for me to unmute.
I will not even take your namaskaram.
So, yeah, I do remember last time we had a conversation on the manifest and unmanifest 1 and unmanifest 2. And yeah, the unmanifest 2 is the Parabrahma, where, the all beings, the whole world and everything got manifested from which, and the unmanifested will never, it is beyond time, and it is timeless. It doesn't have anything to do with time domain. So when we talk about Mahakalpa, Mahakalpa and all, it doesn't get destroyed. It is always there.
Correct. Now, I'm not talking about the unmanifest 2. Here we're talking about the unmanifest 1. The entire manifested has come from the unmanifest. So when we're using the word unmanifest 1 here, what does it mean?
So unmanifest 1, let me actually try to recollect what has been said last week. So it is the vasana, that is unmanifest 1.
Correct.
It is the vasana which gets translated into your thoughts and actions when it gets manifested.
Correct. So the manifested section is the thoughts, desires, and actions, and the world at large. The unmanifest is the vasanas. From the vasanas comes the actions, your individuality, the personality. Superior to the vasanas. Now, the nature of the vasanas is to differentiate between the unmanifest and the unmanifest 2, 1 and 2. The first unmanifest is subject to change. It is ephemeral.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
When you die, your vasanas must have ended. That's the reason you and I die. Please tell Dr. Venkatramji that he has not kept to his promise. He told me that he is going to be there here today, but he is absent.
He has a function to attend.
That I can't accept that excuse. I also had a function to attend. Please turn the camera to her. Sister is supporting the brother. Huh? I also had a function to attend, Where is Vijayamma? Vijayamma is not here. Why is she not here? Because she's attending the function. I also attended to function.
The commitment levels are different.
Correct. That is true. Right. So the manifest is the world, the unmanifest is the vasanas. And the vasanas, when they end, the personality dies. Isn't it? When the vasanas for which I'm born to exhaust, when they are exhausted, I die. So there is a limit to the existence of the vasana. But the difference between the unmanifest 1 and unmanifest 2 in the 20th verse, he says, this yet another unmanifested being is eternal. It does not die when all beings are destroyed. That's the difference we draw. And the unmanifest 2 refers to the reality, the self, Brahman. Is that clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
No doubts, isn't it?
No doubt.
It makes it very clear. Okay, right. Perfect. So the 18th verse spoke about the vasanas from individual perspective. The 19th verse spoke about the vasanas from a macrocosmic perspective. And the 20th verse introduces the concept of Brahman beyond the manifest and the unmanifest. All right? Okay. Let's move on. We'll take up verse 21. Avyaktokshara ityuktaha tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Avyaktokshara ityuktaha tamahu paramam gatim Yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. The unmanifested is called the imperishable. Avyaktaha, aksharaha. Kshara is perishable, akshara is imperishable. It is said to be the ultimate goal. Paramam gatim. Gatim is the goal. Paramam, supreme, ultimate goal. Those who reach it do not return. Yam prapya nanivartante. Na nivartante. Nivartante means return. Na nivartante means they don't return. Tadhama paramam mama. That is my supreme abode. See, either you get tired and fed up of these words, or you get inspired by what they are saying. There are either two possibilities. Either you get tired or you get inspired. And if you're getting tired and bored and exhausted listening to the same thing again and again, that means you are not doing your sadhana. If you are doing your sadhana, if you're doing your reflection, if you're doing your manana, there is no way these scriptures and these texts will not inspire you. Now, the new thing he's saying, the unmanifest is called akshara, imperishable. Obviously, he is referring to the unmanifest two here. The unmanifest two is imperishable because the vasanas are perishable, isn't it? That are subjected to change. So that can't be the imperishable. It is said to be the ultimate goal. Paramam gatim. It is the highest abode. Of all things humanity pursues, the fact that somebody is inspired to pursue this goal of self-realization, this pursuit itself puts you in a different category altogether. So there is a difference in degree and kind. So all the goals people keep aspiring in their lives, of all the goals, it is said to be the ultimate goal. And interestingly so, this ultimate goal is also said to be the very purpose for which you're born. Paramam gatim. In the Atma Bodha, he says, this is the highest. And he also says, there is nothing higher than this. So he uses a language of double confirmation, so that to assure you that once you get here, once you get to this, there's nothing more you need to aspire. Like saying this is the best degree, and also to say there's nothing better than this. So this is the highest that you can aspire, and there's nothing higher than this. Paramam gatim. And those who reach it do not return. Do not return where? They do not return. Where and why? Two simple questions. Where is it that they do not return? Shashikanji. Good to see that you have returned. You've been absent in the classes for a few weeks.
I was touring, Guruji.
So my
Excuse me.
observation is not wrong. Okay, sir.
I was not, able to take it, but I was looking into the videos.
Okay, sir.
Definitely. Yesterday only I am back. Yesterday
sir.
also I didn't exactly attend because I reached only little late.
Forgiven,
Sorry.
sir.
Sorry for that.
No, before you say sorry, I've forgiven you, sir. No.
Return to the existing world, Guruji.
Return
To
to
the
where refers to the existing world of
existing world of life.
the existing world of the cycle of birth and death, isn't it?
Yeah, that is life,
You
right?
know, the life is subjected to the cycle of birth and death.
Cycle
Now,
of-
why are they not subjected to the cycle of birth and death?
Every birth is supposed to be undergo the cycle of birth and death, right? Once
No.
birth is there, death is
My
compulsory.
question, correct. No. My question was twofold. Here he says those who reach that ultimate goal, they do not return. So my question was, where is it they do not return to? You rightly said they do not return to the cycle of birth and death, to this life of samsara. Now the second question is, having correctly answered where, why are they not subjected to the return?
Because they attain the ultimate goal of self-realization.
That is true.
But still, Guruji, I have a doubt over here because I
Right.
have learned somewhere.
I am
from
asking you a doubt and you are asking doubt back to me, sir. This is not acceptable, sir.
Sorry.
You're distracting me, sir.
No, because you taught us, Ramana Maharshi, even after the self-realization, he is living somewhere.
I'm sorry.
Ramana Maharshi ji,
Okay.
even after his attainment of, samadhi, he do have a life. That's what somewhere you taught us. So that's somewhere deposited in my mind also.
No, I would not have ever said that in my senses.
Okay.
Maybe out of my senses, I might have uttered that. Delete that section.
Okay.
See,
Very
the great Ramana Maharshi was a realized soul. And once the body attains samadhi, which is the physical death, there is no further rebirth. That is what the Shastras have been saying.
Exactly. Okay.
So it would be contradictory if we were to say that even after one attaining samadhi, a realized soul has his presence. It's too
vague.
blasphemous a statement, too vague and too illogical statement to say.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no issue, sir. But okay, now let's leave it at that. I'll ask Ashama, why is it that this person who is attaining that state goes into the path of no return?
Because that is the supreme abode. One does not return from there. He's reached that supreme abode.
Indeed, but again, supreme abode is only a description of what that state is. But what's the cause he doesn't return?
He's exhausted his vasanas.
That's all. Because there is no further vasanas, the drive or the cause of birth, there is no further rebirth.
Right.
As simple as that. See, we should have these principles in place so it becomes, our understanding becomes very clear, isn't it? Very right. Because the vasanas, which is the fuel that drive you to the cycle of birth and death, since the vasanas are exhausted, there is no further rebirth. Now, talking about this vasanas, perfect, Mark, wonderful. Now, talking about the vasanas, it is one way of actually evaluating oneself, how far has one progressed. If the ultimate goal is a state of thoughtlessness or vasana-lessness, because there's so much of advice I got in the core group. The wisdom, we have a wisdom core team, and anybody wants to be a part of the core, you are most welcome. But there's so much wisdom out there. The core team, there was so much of wisdom about being thoughtless. So Ramji, I was almost in that thoughtless state. I did not know what to speak the moment the class started, sir. You know, all the Maharishis and Mahapandits and the way the Pandits were trying to correct, sir?
Hariom, sir. Hariom, sir. No, I was only saying that.
Why you? I didn't mean you were saying, sir. Why do you think I'm getting?
Yeah, no, I think because the discussion was that the thoughts are the greatest weight on our mind.
Absolutely.
So somebody said drop all the thoughts. Then I said you drop all the thoughts, but don't become thoughtless, because then you can
Why?
become thoughtless, as not in your dictionary, sir. Thoughtless as in the English Oxford Dictionary.
What does English Oxford Dictionary say?
Thoughtless means you will do thoughtless actions. That means you will not think through what you are doing. But thoughtless in your context is that you become devoid of all thoughts and desires and everything. So that is a different thing.
Sir, being associated with wisdom, you must think like a man of wisdom. Why are you thinking of a man of English dictionary, sir?
That was just a joke, sir.
Correct, sir. No. The problem is I didn't catch the joke, sir. That's the reason. So, Ramji, the point we are making here is, if the state of absolute state is a state of vasanalessness, so the quantity and the quality of the vasanas will measure your current spiritual stature.
Right.
What is the quantum of vasanas and what is the quality of vasanas? So these two, quality and quantity, qualify the nature of a vasana one possesses. So as one evolves, goes up the ladder, the quantity drops and the quality increases. Isn't it, sir?
Yes, sir.
The quantity drops and the quality increases.
Quantity of low quality vasanas should drop, and the quality and quantity of the vasanas, or let's say quantity of good quality vasanas will improve, will increase, or even they will not increase.
This is where I'm trying to examine, because we use the terms and there should be no ambiguity about it. The quantity of the vasanas reduce, quality increases.
Okay.
So quantity of, as you rightly said, the gross natured vasanas, anything that is selfish, egoistic, self-pursuit, the pursuit of your oneself or one's own aggrandizement, those gross natured, possessive, arrogative nature in any pursuit drops. Now, quality improving is what?
Means you become subtler in your vasanas, or these are higher level vasanas where it is more related to your journey towards selflessness. That is, so you become unselfish. So you develop vasanas, or you retain the vasanas which take you on the journey.
There is a, see, at every stage, we have a choice to choose, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
We have a choice to choose between two vasanas. As I was just jokingly mentioning to Aparagaru, there was an invitation to attend a wedding. And there's also a job at hand to be at this satsang. If I go there, I can't be here. If I'm here, I can't be there. So there's a choice. Some of you may say, sir, this is a very obvious choice you have. You have a satsang to take. How can you choose that? But let's say you have a conflict between two vasanas. What should be the on what basis would you choose which vasana to do? See, many a time I have this, I'm so involved with sport, which Sitaramji will understand, because I know he also plays so much sport and things, play so much of this badminton. Every weekend or every of now and then, there are many opportunities of playing tournaments, and it only helps you to become a better sportsman, because you play at different arenas, you play with different people rather than playing with the same people, the same team that you play day in and day out. So it helps you to build that your sport, your competitive spirit, and also you develop the sport, you enjoy that sport. Now, when there is a clash, not just to attend a tournament in the weekend, but am I to, let's say, if I have vasana, obviously I have vasana for badminton. Am I to pursue the vasana for badminton, or am I to pursue the vasana towards philosophy?
I think there the choice is very easy, sir, because you are pursuing philosophy for much longer than all of us, and then you will make the choice of selecting philosophy.
So now since you know me as a philosopher, you're saying, but
Yeah.
at the juncture when I had to choose, am I to become a philosopher or a sportsman? Which field should I choose?
I think
Because there is a clash of vasanas.
correct. So depending upon your spiritual journey, your choice of vasana will change. That's what I feel. For example, today I and Usha were to attend a wedding in the morning.
Right, sir.
And we didn't go. Okay, so there could be, and maybe we wouldn't have done this 5 years back. We would have gone for the wedding. But I think our journey also started and we have made some progress. So probably we took a different decision today than what we would have taken.
But nobody asked me what was your decision. I actually wanted to go for the wedding because there was no space in the car. I ended up left behind. Therefore, I'm not taking this class, sir. Okay. That is the thing. I spelled out the truth, sir. I know. Now half my students will not come to the classes from next week.
No, I think you have taken a natural decision that you would have taken.
Natural decision, right, sir? So this is where I'm only trying to highlight when you say quantity over quality, you have a choice to make at all times in your life. Every time you are at a decision where you have to choose either both may be my own vasanas.
Correct.
But yet I will have to choose the higher from the lower. A subtler vasana vis-a-vis a grosser vasana.
Correct.
So I'm only highlighting it so that you understand always you must sacrifice the lower for the higher.
Yeah, what I was asking or what I was saying was that does that choice improve with your spiritual journey?
Absolutely. Yes.
That is what I was trying to say, that
the spiritual fervor, the spiritual fire within you, when it gets personified or it gets optimized, you will continue to seek an environment which is conducive to this.
Correct.
So you would choose environments only in your conducive for your growth.
Right.
And in fact, by doing that, what are you practicing? Remember the quality. When you choose an environment which is conducive for your growth and not choosing an environment which is dissipative in nature, that quality is known as practicing tapas. Remember the definition of tapas? Tapas is nothing but a conservation of energy where you avoid it being dissipated into unproductive channels. You are not dissipating it into activities which are, it is unnecessary, dissipative. And having conserved energy, you would redirect it to something higher. So that the perception to a certain attending a function, from, as you say, you find it dissipative in nature. Maybe a social activity, you may be obliged to do it, but it is dissipative. I rather could use it to conserve it for a higher purpose. You're practicing tapas. So imagine when he says this, when one has the goal, one is inspired with the highest goal, which is to attain the supreme ultimate goal of realization. How much tapas would one need to practice? If one is inspired by that, their level of tapas is extreme. They keep away from activities which are dissipative in nature. Okay. And when one continues to do this, thanks Ramji, one continues to do this, the quantity of the vasanas, as we said, the gross vasanas, they drop off, and the quality of the higher vasanas keep surfacing, they come to the forefront. That's how you evolve. And ultimately, one who reaches a state of realization reaches a state of no vasanas. And for him, he says there is no return. We're only trying to understand this concept with reference to the concept of how the vasanas. So vasanas are grosser, like even in if you have a trough of water. Sudhakar Garu, you have a trough of water, and they're all suspended particles. They're all different particles there. Obviously, the heavier are the particles that get submerged to the bottom. The lighter ones are
on the top.
At top, isn't it?
Yes.
Similarly, the grosser vasanas one has, that means you are spiritually at the lower level. So, and as your vasanas keep rising, that means you're evolving. The grosser vasanas go off. You start floating.
Can these vasanas be attributed to the qualities, I mean, say, tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic? Just now you were telling that heavier particles will come down. That can be compared to the tamasic quality, and the middle type, rajasic, and the best of the qualities, can be compared to the sattvic quality.
You can say so.
These qualities, will they play any role in these, I mean, say, as far as the vasanas are concerned?
In fact, I would say two things here. Okay. I hope you don't get confused.
Yeah.
One thing is the vasanas only take you to a particular field of activity.
Yes.
And in that field of activity, we are saying there's a gross field of activity vis-a-vis a subtle field of activity. There's a difference we are drawing there. Example, I said playing a particular sport vis-a-vis pursuing philosophy. So am I to become a philosopher, or am I to become a sportsman? I can be a very good sportsman. But am I to define myself as a sportsman? That means I'll have to spend my time all the time in the court training vis-a-vis sitting and studying the Shastras. So when I have these two vasanas, the vasana for philosophy is superior, the vasana for sport is inferior, subtler and grosser. All right? That's one interpretation, one understanding. Now, the second thing is, you have introduced the concept of the gunas, which is sattva, rajas, and tamas. Am I right, sir?
Yes, yes.
Now, let's examine in the same field. Now, I have been in this field for X number of years. My vasana has not changed, isn't it, sir?
Yes.
But most certainly I have changed. I was not the person who have started 3 decades ago. I'm not the person who was 20 years ago. I'm not the person 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, year ago, 6 months. I'm not the same person. So what is it that is changing in me?
The quality of the vasanas is changing in you, and you have very well balanced between the higher quality and the lesser quality.
Now, in the second interpretation or the understanding, where is the higher and the lower, sir, here? I just took the example of me being in this spiritual field.
So naturally, the ultimate thing that comes to one person is spirituality only. That will take you to the higher levels. That is the final stage. That's what I feel. Any field you choose, ultimately the spiritual level is the highest level.
And I don't know. I don't think you're getting the point. The second point I'm making, sir, is you got the first point between spirituality and sport. They're two different things. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You choose the higher from the lower. Okay.
Yes.
Now, second point I'm saying is the vasana for being a philosopher remains the same. I have not changed my vasana.
Yes.
I'm doing the same thing. In fact, I'm referring to the notes which I'm talking now. I've made these notes close to 25, 27 years ago. You not believe the notes which I've scribbled is that old. So these are from there. Obviously, I'm expanding and adapting to the different situation. Now, the field of activity is the same. The field has not changed. The vasana is the same. But what has changed is the gunas in me. Let's say when I started my spiritual journey, my sattva was 20%. The sattva today, maybe 60%, 70%. So the vasana is the same, but the personality changes with reference to the gunas. So when the sattva, and the same thing, when the sattva in me becomes 100%, I am self-realized.
Yes.
You get it? So the proportion of your gunas is another way of trying to understand your spiritual evolution. So you can measure your spiritual evolution with reference to the vasanas. Now, if you ask me, what was my vasana quotient? It's like a bank balance. What is my vasana balance 30 years ago? Just arbitrary, I'm saying my vasanas when I was 30 years ago was 10,000 vasanas. 30 years later, my vasanas is 2,000 vasanas. So in the past 30 years, I have eradicated, exhausted 8,000 vasanas. So am I not closer to the self? It's 2,000 closer to 0 than 10,000, isn't it? That is one way of understanding spiritual growth. Second way of understanding spiritual growth is the gunas in me has changed. So I am becoming more sattvic. So everything I do, I'll be a sattvic. I'll have a sattvic taste. I'll have a sattvic appetite. I'll have a sattvic perception. I'll conduct myself in a sattvic behavior. I will speak in a sattvic manner. Everything will become sattvic in me.
Yeah.
Or rajasic or tamasic in me, whatever it is. So you can understand it with reference to the gunas or with reference to the vasana. There are two ways of understanding.
Yes.
You get it, sir?
Yeah.
Good. Perfect. Right, sir. Now, Vasantama, I don't know it's you asking or Apparagar asking. Are all social obligations considered as dissipation? Chap and Vasantama.
Yes, Guruji, it was my question, because if all the choices that we make are more towards reducing, obviously we mentioned that some of these are dissipation of energy or dissipation of your focus towards the higher. So if we have to make choices, any individual, right, we have choices between, to your point, whether you want to be on the spiritual class or you want to attend a wedding or you wanted to attend a spiritual cards class versus go to a sport, or all of those options. So the choice of all the options towards social seems to be dissipation of energy. So the question I have is, we are in a social fabric. So if at some point in time, is it necessary that if I have to be on the spiritual path, like almost you have to cut off from your social obligations, which is not towards the spirituality?
But there is no one, the beauty of Vedanta is it doesn't give you do's and don'ts. It's not that only by not doing that you become spiritual, or by doing this you become spiritual. There is no do's and don'ts. But when a particular activity, whatever be the activity, when you consider it as a distraction, as a dissipation, you can choose to keep away from it as long as it becomes an impediment in your growth. Whatever it can be. It can be your family, it can be your guru, it can be your neighbor, it can be your work. Because sometimes, you're let's say you as a head of organization, one of your employees is giving everything to it and he is going overboard. He's almost got a workaholic. He's 18-20 hours he spends at office. What would you tell him? You call him to your cabin and say, my dear, you're doing so much to the organization. I appreciate that. I think you need to balance out your health. You need to balance out your family. Take a break. I think you need to get back rejuvenated. You need a break. So isn't to a person who is addicted to work, isn't a work a dissipation? He needs to balance it out, isn't it? So there is nothing as right and wrong. As long as anything that becomes an impediment in your growth, you should try to keep away from it. So there's nothing as you should or you shouldn't.
Okay.
Because if I were to say you should or shouldn't, you'll take it literally. What is right for me may not be right for you. What is right for you is wrong for me. What is right for me is definitely wrong for you. So whose standard has to be followed? Which action has to be taken as a yardstick and say, I will take a yardstick and pass a general ruling and say, doing it is wrong. No, there's nothing like that. Do you mean to say, if I had to go to a function, do I become any less spiritual?
No, you will not become less spiritual. But my question is more towards to get to the journey of the higher. Is it like social engagement or any of these things are dissipation and the journey will be much longer? That's my question rather.
If it is dissipative in nature, anything will drag you. Your journey will obviously get delayed because it's dissipation. But what is your perception of dissipation? What activity by your nature is dissipation? And you be true to it. If you ask me, these functions are complete colossal waste of time. Totally waste of time. But yet, if you have no choice, but you have to be obligated, you have no choice but to be there. You're physically there, but you're mentally not participating because you don't want to get carried away. When you have to be there, you're physically there, mentally where your thoughts, oh, I have to be here because I'm obliged. But would I be sitting and dancing and partying with them? No, I am not interested in all that. I don't want to lose my focus. It's like a person who is conscious of his health. Would he go to a party and indulge in all the unhealthy food? Would he, ma?
No.
He's trying to build himself. He wants to represent the country at a national level, a sport he's playing. And because his nephew is getting married, he has obviously attended the function. But would he go and get dead drunk and indulge in all the unhealthy food? Or would he practice restraint? But yet I have to be there. So you are in it and yet you're out of it. So you are physically participating, but you're mentally not indulging. Remember this. This is a trademark of a spiritual person. You're physically there because you have an obligation. You're mentally participating means you're indulging. No, no, I'm there. Whatever dharma you have to do, you do, but then mentally you are out of it.
So can I call it as Nishkama Karma, Guruji?
No, no. I don't think Nishkama Karma means selfless action. We are not talking of selfless actions.
You are going to a social event. At the same time, you are not getting carried away by the social event so that you would not dissipate your energy. That is not Nishkama Karma.
It's detachment.
It's detachment. I wouldn't describe it as Nishkama Karma. I would only describe it as you are totally detached from it. You're in it and yet out of it.
Thank you, Guru.
Yes. So you can remain totally detached to your family while you are with the family. I'm not a sannyasi or a swami telling this. I'm also a man of grihastha like any one of you. At some point, you'll have to tell, I need to take a step back. Or I can completely devour my life only for the sake of the family, isn't it? Your whole family can completely devour your life, consume your life, as if family becomes the only purpose of your life and living. Isn't that not possible?
100%.
That you're only living for the sake of the family?
Yeah, it is possible if we do not know where to draw a line.
Now, what will tell you where to draw a line? Only when you envision higher purpose in life, isn't it? Then you know family is a part. Family is not the whole, isn't it?
Yeah, it's difficult, Guruji.
If anything, I'll just give an example. If I were to keep this finger very close to my eye, it almost blocks my vision of this eye.
Correct.
It becomes so pronounced that I don't see anything else in life. But if the same finger I put at a distance, I have a clearer picture of what that finger is, and it is a part of my vision. I'm able to perceive the entire room that is there, and I also see my finger as a part of the room. But if I get that too close to my thing, not only I don't see anything else, I don't see this also. It blocks my vision. Now, imagine your family as the finger. Is your family the only purpose of your life?
No.
Is job the only purpose? Is profession the only purpose of your life? Is health the only purpose of your life? Are you living only to be healthy? Is social life only the purpose of your life? So what is the purpose of your life? Then you realize all these are elements that exist in the journey of your life, and nothing should take precedence over the other. As you go along the journey of life, fulfilling the very purpose of life, then you will realize you'll play your role, whatever role you need to play as a father, or as a teacher, or as a invitee for a social function. You attend and go on, do what you need to do, but nothing clouds your vision.
Yes, Guruji.
So family should help you in your progression of the growth. But the moment the family is becoming an obstacle, you must learn to keep distance from that, because I have made it an obstacle, not that the family by itself an obstacle. So social invitation is not wrong. But am I getting attached to it? That is wrong. The moment it is becoming an obstacle, I must have enough wisdom in me to say, no, I must take a step back because I am getting carried away with it. So don't blame the
Invitation.
activity. Don't blame the activity or the invitation or association. So Vedanta tells you, you go about freely doing whatever you think is right. But the moment you suspect that you're getting carried away with it, withdraw. Gain enough strength and go back into it freely. So there is no do's and don'ts in Vedanta. Every other religion gives do's and don'ts. Only Vedanta doesn't give do's and don'ts. There's nothing as right or wrong. And don't judge a person by what you see him do. It's what is in the mind. So as long as you're detached, don't let it blind your vision. So therefore, that's why here he says the ultimate goal. Can one envision an ultimate goal, and then everything else becomes a part of your life. Okay, ma.
Thank you, Guruji.
Yeah, most welcome. Other day there was a beautiful quote, an old familiar quote which came my way, that ships sink not because they're in the waters, because the waters that seep into them, that's the reason the ship sinks. And ships are all the time in the waters, but they don't sink. Moment it starts seeping into them, they start taking it. That's when you're destroyed. So you have to be in the waters, but don't allow things to get into you. And the moment they get into you, they destroy you. So do you blame the waters? I will have to ask the captain. Aparagaru. Yes, Captain, please speak.
Guruji, it's very nice saying. I've been in the waters for more than 6 years, and I like the example you have quoted. I really, we do sink when the water enters our ships.
Only then you sink.
Yeah, absolutely.
Till then you don't sink. But the ship is meant to be in the waters, isn't it? What is the use of a ship if it's in the dockyard?
No use.
No use. So what is the use of being a man who is stuck in the ashrams or isolated somewhere in the woods? What is the use of a person? He is of no use. So in fact, Swami Ramatirtha says, real Vedanta is lived by, not by Swamis, by Grihasthas, he says. Real Vedanta has to be practiced in homes, in offices, not in the forests and the ashrams and the woods. So real Vedanta has to be practiced in the marketplace.
Yes.
So like the ship has to be in the waters, you have to be in the marketplace doing what you ought to doing. But don't allow anything to get into you.
Very beautiful. Samsara Sagaram. Don't drown it into it.
Right. Don't drown in the Sagaram. All right. So there's a beautiful parallel there. So I'm glad. Okay. So the unmanifest is called the imperishable. It is said to be the ultimate goal. Those who reach it do not return. That is my supreme abode. Okay, 22, please. Purusha sapara partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyanta sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Purusha sapara partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyanta sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Gayatri, the small correction required there. Okay. Now here he says that supreme being, Purusha, Paraha. Paraha is supreme, Purusha is supreme being, is indeed attainable by unswerving devotion. Ananyaya. Ananya means unswerving. Bhaktya is devotion. Labhya is attainable. Is indeed tu. The word tu in Sanskrit. Purusha sapara partha bhaktya labhyasta anyaya. Ananyaya Labhyasta, ta, the word ta, tu, indeed attainable by unswerving devotion, in whom all beings dwell, by whom all this is pervaded. Yasyanta sthani bhutani. Yena sarvam idam. Sarvam, all idam. This tatam, pervaded. All this is pervaded. Now, what this verse is doing, in simple terms, is that he is giving us a certain assurance that we can attain Brahman. And how do you attain Brahman? And he's also giving us the formula. The formula to attain the self. Jama, what is the formula to attain the self?
Guruji, what formula?
What formula? You all have become very smart. I ask you a question, you ask the question back to me. Huh? The verse gives us the means to attain Brahman. He says that supreme being is indeed attainable by unswerving devotion. So the quality that a sadhak has to practice is unswerving devotion, which is the Sanskrit word for that is ananyata, ananyataha bhaktaha. A simple example I'll take. When a child has fallen in love with a particular object, okay, it could be a tricycle, it could be a bicycle or a motorcycle. Something at different stages, you fall in love with different things. When a child has fallen in love with the bicycle, is it not right to say that the bicycle has consumed the child?
Yes, Guruji.
What is the nature of the bicycle in the child's mind? What is the nature of the thought of the bicycle? Is it a random thought, or is it a persistent thought?
It's consumed by the thought of the bicycle, the tricycle.
The child is consumed by the thought of the tricycle or the bicycle, isn't it? So as a result of that, what happens? The father gets fed up and says, this fellow is every day, this fellow is annoying me, bicycle, 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 bicycle. Okay, buy him a bicycle and shut him up. So the father gets fed up, even though he doesn't have the means, he'll somehow manage or beg and borrow and say, okay, I'll buy a bicycle for this fellow. Isn't it?
Guruji, but again in some other place it says Ananya Chinta. He says, have no other thought, only this thought. So how is the thought and the devotion different?
That is what I'm saying. I knew this question will be coming. That's the reason I said, when you fall in love with something, the thought becomes consistent, isn't it?
Yes.
The difference between love and devotion is only the direction of a thought. The principle of love and devotion is, what is the principle of love and devotion? The principle of love and devotion is the same, which is identification. Write this down, Ma. The principle of love and devotion is identification. When you identify with something at your level or something lower than your level, you call it as love. Like love, you love your car. I certainly know that you really love your car. She is the brand ambassador of WagonR. Even if she sits in a Rolls Royce, she'll come back and say, Guruji, but still Wagoner is Wagoner, Guruji. It is the best car, she says. So you have fallen in love with your car. You have loved your furniture. You loved your home. You love your children. You love your spouse. So anybody below you or at your level, you use the term love. But the moment you say you are devoted to your parents, you say you're devoted to your mother, you are devoted to your teacher, you're devoted to your work, you're devoted to the highest, which is Brahman or God, you're devoted to God. So the same feeling of identification, when it is towards anything lower than you, it is love. Higher than you, it is devotion. So the principle is identification. Now, I am only conveyed the example of when the child has fallen in love with a bicycle. What happens, as you said, there is not a randomness, there is a consistency of a thought comes in. And in the philosophical terms, whenever a thought consumes you, you are worshipping it. And as the law of attachment or law of identification says, as you think,
You become.
so you become. So if you are able to bring in a sense of ananya chinta, ananya bhakti, the same thing, chinta or thought or bhakti is the same. Ananya bhaktya. So if you are able to bring in that sense of consistency to that worship, he says, you can indeed attain that Brahman. But the obvious drawback, obvious challenge we have is you get the point, Jayama, so far?
Yes, Guruji.
Yes. Now, Annapurnama, what is the obvious problem we have here?
Hari Om Guruji. I don't get it, Guruji.
No, I gave the example and explained the concept of trying to be consistent with the thought of the self. What is the obvious challenge we have?
Because challenge is more because we sail in two boats, like we also one leg in each. We are in a mundane life, and as well as we want to progress towards spirituality. But maybe as per the steadfastness of our desire, will be drawn into that side. So the focus or the unflinching desire is the problem, maybe.
You're right. In fact, it is that inconsistency creeps in. You know, we are not able to keep our thoughts consistently on the self. No, I don't blame the family or mundane activities for that. We can't blame that, isn't it?
True, like we should not be, we should be doing our obligatory duties. We should not be attached to them and or attached to the results, probably, fruits. We should do our duty simply.
If you are able to do your duty without getting, as we explained, without it getting into you and you getting carried away, there's no problem. If you do it detachedly as a sakshi, there is no. So you are able to maintain the thought of the self in and through the obligations.
But still, we can't be riding on two horses, no, Guruji. We should switch over to at some point to the one and progress fast towards the higher. If we are.
So what are you suggesting? You say,
Go.
Guruji, why don't you start an ashram? Soon we'll all drop everything that we are doing and we'll come and join there. Is that what you're suggesting?
Don't know the way, Guruji, how to switch over actually. Maybe this birth the life is designed like that to go on like this.
You mean to say only those people who can give up everything and sit in an ashram and study are designed to attain moksha?
But the Lord says, okay, at all. I don't know, I'm confused. Maybe we should, by dedicating all our actions to the Lord, I mean, in a yajna spirit or as a tapas, we can attain moksha.
Correct. So thank you. You said that. So the ashram will wait for a while. So you can attain, you can inject the spirit of consistency into the action is by oblating every action to that goal and by practicing tapas. So you have spelled it out. Means everything you do is in the interest of the cause you believe in, what you believe in. It's like an ambassador of a country. He does whatever he does in a foreign land is only in
the interest of his
the
nation.
nation, isn't it? He represents the nation. He would not do anything that brings disrepute to the nation, isn't it?
But being in when doing obligatory duties also, at some point you used to mention we should rise above all the rituals, puja, and progress to the next stage. But we don't know still at what point we can give up all this and progress.
I'm sorry, can you come again?
Like worship of idols, pujas, or all they're all suggested for us to keep our focus and attached to the spiritual path. But to progress further, at some point, we should not be attached to them, should be able to give up this and progress to the next level. But we don't know how it is possible.
No. What is the difficulty in giving up?
We can't be giving, okay, going to temple has become, it's a habit, it's a part of, life, routine, like. But at what point we should give up the idol worship or puja and other worldly, or I don't know, I'm confused. Should we give them up or is it okay? And side by side, by practicing this also, we should keep practicing in our meditation, towards not meditation. You used to say that is the final this thing, destination, meditation. We should progress in the levels, higher levels, to realize the self.
I think just for the benefit of everybody, I think Annapurnama is just so genuinely asking, how does one go about it? I don't think it is merely academic. It is genuinely she asking, how do I balance this? Because we are all in the thick and thin of our activities. We are having many obligations. We are told to perform. We have been doing many rituals. So, there's a simple, what's a thumb rule to keep in mind is, as long as an action reminds you of the higher, keep doing it. But when anything doesn't remind you of the self, doesn't remind you of the goal, do not do it.
Thank you.
So any action, it could be, that means you are into the activity for the mere sake of activity. It has no meaning, has no purpose. You should be into an activity for a purpose, isn't it? Now, you put a tilak, you put a bindi. Why are you putting a bindi? It has a certain symbolic representation, isn't it? You go to a temple. What does it symbolize? It has a certain symbolic representation. Every ritual you perform. But the moment you're performing the ritual mechanically, it doesn't serve any purpose to you. Either you have grown beyond it or not understood the purpose of it. Whatever it is, it doesn't serve the purpose. So if you do every action as a means to that end, which is the goal, you will be successfully able to maintain a continuity of thought in everything that you do. I repeat, if you do everything as a means to that end, then every action becomes a one long chant of the Lord because you are doing it for that sake. So you remember the act, the thought of the goal in act, whatever you do. But any action doesn't remind you of the goal if it is done in an end in itself. That means you have got attached to it. You got stuck. It's an impediment. Why are you earning money? Simple question somebody asks you. Why are you running behind money? What would your answer be?
For a good life, but it must be shared with others.
How do you answer this question with reference to the goal of self-realization? See, I'm only trying to tell you how can you equate everything that you're doing with reference to the goal. Everything.
Yes, Guruji.
Money should not become an impediment in my life that it clouds me of the goal, the purpose. Family should not become an impediment that it clouds me of the goal itself. Nothing should become an impediment that it clouds me. So you can get into money, you can get into, if you have to take up a job, the last thing I used to dread was if I have to survive, and if I don't have enough to even survive, I'll have to take up some job. No, never was there any fear. That insecurity never existed. But I'm saying to carry on my sadhana, carry on my journey, if I have to make a job to just have 2 meals a day, have a little roof over your head, if I have to take up a job, why am I taking up a job? So that I'm able to satisfy my basic needs so that I can carry on my journey. Otherwise, that should not be an impediment in my journey, isn't it? So how do you look at everything that is in your life right now? If you use it as in the spirit of yajna, as I said, use it as an offering to the Lord. So in everything that you do, you remember the Lord in everything. So there is a common thread that connects through the different pearls or different gems. It's one necklace. But the common thread is the thought of the self.
Beautiful, Guruji. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Most welcome. So this has to be very individualistic, that you are able to relate to every activity of yours and keep questioning, am I doing it? For what am I doing it? Is it an end in itself or a means to an end? And this honest questioning, this honest examination would clearly tell you, oh, this is my area of attachment. Yesterday, me and Vijay had some chores to do. We were coming back. We're just quiet. And suddenly I said to her, be detached to Vaishnavi, I said. just like that. So you must learn to be detached to her. There is no reason for me to say that. I just said there is no harm in being told that you must learn to develop detachment. And unlikely a mother is detached to her child. But unless until the mother is detached to the child, she will not be able to enjoy that motherhood. Otherwise, that the child can become a source of extreme concern and agony. But to be a mother, you must be detached to your child to enjoy a motherhood. Otherwise, the child becomes a source of agony. Correct, Vasantama? You agree, isn't it? When will a mother enjoy the motherhood? Only when the mother is detached to the child, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you see the relevance of it? It's not to walk away from your daughter and say, I don't want to be anyway connected with it. No, it's a lifelong obligation. And I understand that. But you must understand where this knowledge kicks in and says, only when I'm detached, I'm able to enjoy whatever that the child presents.
True, Guruji. We sort of experienced a little bit of that. So.
It's not easy, Guruji. You're asking a mother not to breathe.
No, Guruji, but I totally get that. I think the instances when you are detached, I think I have experienced the enjoyment when I am detached. It's difficult to be 100%, and I don't ever see myself probably until unless I have attained the supreme goal. Unless then, I don't think I'll be 100%. But there are moments where I have been trying that, and it's definitely more. The experience has been much fuller experience.
It gives you that strength, it gives you that capacity. So imagine being detached to everything, and yet you're doing many things. You are one of the thumb rules of being detached is you are in action, you are active, you are engaged. Detachment is not packing up and getting rid of it. No, that's not detachment. You are in the thick and thin of things, but yet nothing binds you. Where there is no burden of that thought.
But what's the difference between being mechanical and is that not being mechanical?
Which one?
You are into thick of things, but unfazed by anything. So is it more or less like mechanical, like you are doing because you have to do things?
No, mechanical is you are not identifying with it. Here, it's not that you're like a piece of wood or stone. You genuinely feel, but you're not affected by that feeling. You feel what the other person is feeling. You're able to relate to that person, but it doesn't crush you. As I said, the example, you don't sync with it. Why is it that you also should sing when others sing? I don't understand that. Why does it mean that when others suffer, you also should suffer? I don't understand that logic.
No, you shouldn't suffer, because if you are into that suffering, then you cannot do anything that is required. So
rightfully so to the other person, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you want to be of help to your child, you must be detached to whatever the child is going through. A child may be going through emotional turmoil, a relationship problem. The child may be going through many challenges, can have whatever the demanding situation. But you should not become the child, so that to the extent that you suffer exactly as the child, then where is the question of being a source of solace or guidance? Only standing apart and taking a view of a sakshi, a witness, that you can genuinely see where the person is going wrong and exactly help them. And to that extent, you must remain a witness, you must remain unaffected, you must be detached. As a head of an organization, you have 100 people working under you, different departments, interdepartmental issues, inter-employee issues. There are demands of different challenges. If only you can stand apart and look at them from a distance, that is when you have a clear solution, isn't it? If you also get caught up in the interdepartmental problems, then what will happen?
Yeah, you're right.
Somebody
So
has to advise you.
Yeah. So that classification, Guruji, is easier for certain things. So maybe that is probably the circles. The toughest circle is the family circle to watch, be an observer.
Start from your office. It will percolate into the home. You've got to start somewhere.
No, the other circles are clearer for me.
No, what I'm saying is it only the degree of detachment. See, it's like your muscle, you have a certain strength in your arm. Let's say you can comfortably lift 3 kgs. But if I go to the threshold capacity, which is 7 kgs your threshold, if I give you 8 kgs, it's impossible because you're not grown, it's beyond your capacity. Yeah. But you need to keep working on your strength so that you increase your capacity from 7 to 8. So never ever test yourself with the toughest challenge because you'll fail there. But start working gradually, understand the importance of this concept of learn to be detached to everything. I'm sure it's very easy to be detached to Aparagaru. You can just tell him, I have got nothing to do with you. That's all. You can just tell him that. And if any problem, let me know.
I'll try, sir.
Please. You have you know how to reach me, no? Okay, sir. Aparagaru, you can't say that to her. Huh? All right.
As you say.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So the only way to maintain the Ananya Bhakta, Ananya Chinta, is not to be carried away with everything, not to be carried away with anything, yet carry on doing your dharma, identify with a higher cause, and let that thought percolate, let that thought permeate in everything that you do. It's very much possible. So it's just a matter of how committed you are and how convinced you are. You need to have that sense of adamance of a child wanting the bicycle. You must have that sense of adamance that I must get to the self, that I must seek this. I don't want anything else but this. That kind of fanaticism must come in. That's when perhaps this thought gets a renewed vigor. Okay. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.